Welcome back from the break. This is Family Hour, and we are looking at ethical dilemmas in decision making. Before the break, we were looking at how you can balance individual and personal interests alongside the institutional company policies. But then we have stakeholders, and sometimes their voices also matter in decision making, but you realize sometimes you find yourself trapped when you are trying to listen to the stakeholders. Now, how can you engage stakeholders who may have differing perspectives, especially on ethical issues?
I think, stakeholders are very interesting people because everyone has their interests. When I got into a board and we're doing the board training, they drew up a chart and made a presentation by one of the most amazing people who does board training. And he said, your stakeholders are many. Can you identify your stakeholders? Please note that all your stakeholders have different interests. And your stakeholders will always have varying interests. It can be detrimental to you and beneficial to them. Say, for example, if you've decided we're going through a credit crunch, COVID happened, people were not getting salary. And so what companies did was lay off so many people, right? And there was nothing in their policy to foresee something such a high layoff of people. And yet they had to make a decision for themselves to stay afloat. And so the decision involved laying off people to deal away with certain expenses, certain statutory obligations such as NSSF, pay as you earn, and medical insurance, all those things. And then some of them hired temporary staff, temporary contractual staff, who just are there on contract. So it's a less burden to the entity, but you see, there are people who are also involved. And so your stakeholders are so many. You have the people within. You have maybe some of those entities had people who were investing in. So investors are saying we need to get back our money, we need to get back our returns, and so make the decision. And so you as the CEO have to make a very high decision. Remember, you have investors in this business, but you also have employees. You also have clients. So those are three corridors of power. Who do you please? And so what you do in such scenarios is, one, prepare for them. Because if anything COVID taught us was to prepare. Prepare for them. Think of the wildest possible thing that could happen. And if we've learned anything from the lockdown and those different things, is to think broadly in case a pandemic hits the world again. What does it mean for my business? What does it mean for my family? And most of us, especially us who have lived in war-torn areas, you have to think, if a war broke out today, what are your solutions? Me, I already have a panya to get to my village, There is always a way out. You have to think beyond just what is happening. Say, for example, war broke out. I've had discussions with people who lived in war times and asked them, what did it mean in terms of food? What did it mean in terms of getting out of the country? What did it mean for bank accounts? I'm told by the time this regime came on, they struck off the last zero on everybody's bank account. So if you had 150, you were down 15,000. If you had 1.5, you were down to that amount. So these are all scenarios that we need to think about, that leaders have to think about. You cannot live life thinking it will never happen. And so you have to say, what does my sustenance look like? What does the sustenance of my family look like? I think about those things that when it happens, I say, for example, okay, we are spread out in my family. This person is in this part, and they are in that part. So what happens? Do we communicate with one another? If the bridge is closed, how do we cross? So those are things that are going to come. They're naturally going to happen. So what do you do in those situations is to prepare. Prepare mentally, prepare by having a policy. But the biggest part that you're going to do is to engage your stakeholders. You have to engage the stakeholders. If you're going to fire people and lay off so many people because you're having a crunch or because there's so much that has happened, money is not coming in, the production process has been slowed. Say, for example, we have replaced some people's jobs with AI, something has happened. What do you do then is to engage those people. Now, engage with lawyers most wisely, because in something such as that, you're going to have a lawsuit on your hands, whether you like it or not. And so what you do is have a discussion, first of all, for legal preparation of a situation like that, because you need to be covered on all bases. But then additionally is to engage these people. I am of the school of thought where less harm is better, the utilitarian, less harm for everyone is better. So if I sit down and have that, so I can't tell my investors what to do, they're the ones that tell me what to do. But I can tell my clients and I can tell my staff. And so that engagement process is going to be all around a 360 engagement. Have a discussion with the people that you're laying off, explain the situation to them. I have found that when you explain things to people, they are more understanding than when you assume they ought to know. If you sat down and say, we are not bringing in as much money as we ought to. So for now, right now you have a funding problem all over the world. Every NGO, CSO has suffered with a grant problem. Everyone, not just even in the third world countries where we live in, but even in the first world countries where that money was coming from. With that knowledge, I have told many entities, especially local entities, that you have to be creative in how you are now managing what you are doing. Most entities have let go of their people. The others have further gone down from office space where it was once such a big house and a compound. It's not down to 2 offices. You know, because people need to find a way to survive. And so the thinner or the skeleton stuff that you have is how you are working to keep the entity afloat. What do you do in such times? Engage the stakeholders. Talk to them. Be open about what you are facing. Explain to them that there's an option, which many people have done, to work for free and work for a stipend at that time. Then they make the decision whether to work for a stipend, to work on contract, or to leave. And that's what most entities are doing. We like you, we like your business, we like what you're bringing to the table, but we can't afford you in this time. We truly don't know when it's going to turn around, and we want it to turn around. But for the time, these are the options. 1, we either give you a stipend as you come in. 2, we give you a contract and you work on contracts with less benefits. 3, we pay you out and give you severance pay, and you go the way you are. That engagement is easier than waking up in the morning and hearing you have no job, funding has stopped, don't come. That's somebody who didn't care. And that's where concern and trustworthiness come in as you develop a framework to respond to these things. Because at the end of your decisions are people, and people matter. People matter. And because they matter, you have to think about them in such a way that behind Diana, there may be 4 other people. Behind Adrian, there may be 5 other people. And so they're going to be affected by that one singular decision. A good leader would think broadly and say, engage the people, and then find a way that is less harmful on both sides. Okay.
Now, you might have the framework, you might be observing all this, you have the policies, but then you meet another stumble, which is probably competing demands or maybe limited resources.
Yeah.
And how can you prioritize now the ethical consideration or the ethical decisions amidst, in the face of these pressing demands and also probably limited resources which are supposed to be competed for with very many other pressing demands and needs?
There's no one size fits it all. There will never be. In ethical dilemmas, there's no one size fits it all. And that's why ethical dilemmas come. You see, there's a difference in ethical dilemmas and ethical problems, or things that just arise, ethical decisions and ethical dilemmas. By the time it's a dilemma, it means that you see no way out of these 2 options. And so it's difficult. There's no one size fits it all. What is presented to you may look akin to what somebody else is suffering, but it doesn't mean that the solution you give is going to be the same as the other person. And so for you, even as you come to that place where you have to sort of balance is what you're looking for, is to, first of all, think outside the box I mean, find alternative solutions. There is always an alternative solution when it comes to ethical dilemmas, especially workspaces where you have to let go. And that's why in my previous discussion, I said you tier your response and you sort of pass on the decision making to the other party that's going to be affected. And when you tier your response, people will realize that you care for them and that they matter in the grand scheme of things. And so you have to find alternative solutions, think outside of the box, partner. I have seen this with many institutions, and I've said to many institutions in this time, you don't have to do everything. The problem with us individuals is we want to have credit for what we do, and so we always put out our achievements out there as we did it. But there's nothing wrong with Adrian and Diana partnering and saying we did it, yeah? Because in the end, it's going to matter. You may bring the skill, I may bring the money. Someday you may bring the money, I may bring the skill. And so because I don't have the money at this time, I have to get to a place where I lower myself to say, okay, so how can I assist you? I have the skill, you have the money. This is the idea, let's put it together, and then we come together to partner to bring out the idea that we have. It's very important in those scenarios to find alternative solutions, to think out of the box, to think beyond the places that you have thought. Then when you come to decisions such as those, have discussions. No man is an island. Nobody succeeds on their own. Nobody automatically rises to the top without the help of people. And I'm sure you've heard us say, it's a saying from one of the Google executives, LinkedIn executives, that says if you see a leader that's gliding on top and is successful, beneath them is a number of people paddling to ensure that they're gliding like a swan. That shows that somebody who is successful has to collaborate with people. They can't glide on top unless there are people paddling under there like swans. And so it's important when you come to those scenarios is to have discussions with people. Don't make the decision based on you, your need, and what you want. Have discussions here and there. Form focus discussion groups. Form groups that you can have. You can deliberate on to find creative solutions. Because the truth is, when you come to ethical dilemmas, despite what you think, you will need to have creative solutions, and that creativity may not naturally come for you, but it may come out from somebody so much easier. So have time where you're having those focus group discussions with people who will bring the creativity to the decision that you need to make, and then also choose the alternative that offers the greater good to the lesser evil. Because sometimes every time you're going to make a decision, this is what I say: choose the alternative that offers the greater good or the lesser evil. In the end, that is the solution that everyone can back. Everyone will hate you for your decisions that you make. I mean, as you rise in life, you realize that there are people who will hate you for the decisions that you make. But that's the price of leadership. When you wear the crown, it's heavy on your head.
Okay. At what point should someone seek expert advice?
It depends. So as a leader, I always have a mentor who is above me. I always have peer mentors, and then I have reverse mentors. So those are people you're mentoring that will sort of give you feedback. That mentorship aspect as a leader, as you grow as a leader, is important. And so I never make these big decisions that affect so many people without first going to a mentor. I always have that time where I say, I can trust my mentor to give me direction in this particular aspect. I always, as long as it's a decision that affects more than me, more than just the people around me, I always seek help. I come up with the idea. I come up, say for example, with something. I look at it. I think it's good. I don't trust my decision. I want to hear from somebody else. I'll carry what I have with my thought process, give it to a mentor, and say, what do you think? I'm at that position. And many times these relationships are very confidential. So even if it's a confidential decision that you need to make, you may not necessarily bring out the names, but you can give the scenario to somebody who has gone ahead of you. They have better wisdom than you do. And so it's necessary for you that every time you come to a decision-making process that involves many people, that involves not just a few people, it's good for you to seek out that expert opinion. It's good for you to seek out that mentor. And for me, I qualify it in terms of mentor as opposed to expert sometimes. Because you can trust the mentors that you have in your life. Hopefully you can trust the mentors that you have in your life. For expert, when you go directly into somebody who's an expert, you have to weigh it with the fact that experts, first of all, will come at it in a very logical way. They may not have the feelings you have for the people that you're dealing with. They will definitely, and that's the thing about ethics, it has nothing to do with feelings. But the fact that you have those feelings, it's sort of your sensitivity and what guides you to make those decisions. It's important for you to go to an expert when it has many people involved, because they'll give you an unbiased view. Marry that unbiased view with what you think and the people that you see. And if you see soundness in that, go ahead.
What are your closing remarks as we wind up this talk?
Well, ethical dilemmas are something that each of us are going to face in this life, whether we're in leadership or simply leading in small spheres of our lives. And there is no silver bullet that can help each of us arrive at that particular place. But creating a framework that will help you, that will guide you when you get to making those decisions is very important. And so thinking through them, understanding, seeking help, finding experts that can navigate the terrain with you is critical and important for you to navigate ethical dilemmas.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you so much, you, our viewer. Wow, now we know we can face the dilemmas because we now know what to do. Thank you so much for watching, you who started with us. Before we go, I just remind you, on coming soon, we are bringing you something new in our Wednesday edition of Family Hour, and that is the Uganda we want. It is something good, fully packed, and I believe you too will love it, especially you who is patriotic. If you have that image of the Uganda you would want to see, please, that image will be unveiled here on Church of Uganda Family TV every Wednesday, 9 to 10 p.m. Coming soon. Just keep your eyes here with us. Austin Mkalas is my name. I've worked with Andrew and Muhumza, plus very many other people out there. And from the entire team, good night.
Family Hour, empowering families one episode at a time. Together, we build strong, healthy, and thriving families with our daily dose of inspiration and expert insights on topics that matter, like education and career growth.
A child may be a good entrepreneur, but you're forcing the child to make sure that she passes sciences in order for her to be a what? A nurse.
Family health.
No one should one day tell you that, hey, since you have diabetes, you should not take Caro. That's a lie. There's what we call portion control.
Finance and wealth.
Keep track of your spending. And part of the spending, of course, as we said, be able to separate wants from needs. That's secondary.
Leadership and governance.
There are people who take on the political aspect and try to water down important, significant decisions we leaders take for the good of this country.
Not forgetting parenting.
Now you're raising kids or children who are in a totally different time. You get it. Those days your mother would just give you an eye and you know this is a problem.
Hey, there are visitors.
And it's just there are visitors
and
around.
Mom gives you this eye, you know?
Yes.
Catch more of this every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m.